Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another educational video. Today we're going to be talking about training and racing and having a hydration plan for your race. Is very key. It is a critical component because if you come off your bike and you're dehydrated, you're not going to catch up on the run and you can either DNF, medical tent, hospital, or worse. So hydration plays just as important role as swim, bike, and run training, strength training, getting coached, have a good training plan, sign up for the race, logistics of getting there. If you're not thinking about this while you're doing your training, then you're going to be in sorry shape come race day when you're trying to figure it out on the fly. Because that's no bueno when you're out there 112 miles on a bike trying to figure out hydration strategy. 26.2 miles turns into just an awesome train wreck. I know because I've been there. I DNF'd Ironman Texas 2014, I believe, because I just did not think about hydration. My first race was 2013, Ironman Lake Tahoe. You know, when it's below freezing at race start, and the temperature really doesn't get above 50 degrees on the bike ride, and the sun sets and it goes back down to 40 and 30 degrees on the run, you really don't sweat as much as you think. Got a little bit dehydrated, but I was able to kind of fake it till you make it. I got to the finish line, finished. Yeah, I was a little spent, but didn't really face any kind of implications for not properly hydrating. Ironman Texas was a little bit warmer, sweated a lot on the bike, on the run, wasn't even paying attention, cramped up, dehydrated, got kind of, I guess, delirious is what you call it. And after that, kind of woke me up as like, hey, you got to hydrate on the bike to make this work. So that will be the key theme that hopefully you'll be seeing through here as we talk about hydration plans. So know your sweat rate. Measure in training and keep track of the trends, time of day, temperature, humidity, bike or run. I have a glorious spreadsheet that I'm using for my athletes. If you would like a copy of that, I've got it in Google Docs. I've got it in spreadsheet form for Excel. I track all these metrics. So we've got the date, because the time of year matters. If you're doing it in January versus July, it's going to be different, especially here in Kansas City. The time of the day, you're doing it morning, afternoon, what's the temperature, what's the humidity, all that factors in. And then, is it a bike or a run? Because your sweat rates are going to be a little bit different for that bike or a run. So if you don't know this information, you need to. So it's weighing yourself before and after your workouts, knowing how much fluid you took in. If you went to the bathroom at some point on the ride, so you're accounting for how much you take in, how much you put out. If you ate food or something like that, to account for the weight too afterwards, bring yourself in, because you want a true measure of how much fluid are you actually losing. There's also different ways you can know the composition of that sweat possible. I think Gatorade, they're doing a test. It's still in beta. I haven't seen it launched officially. I know a few people have done beta versions. There's another one, Levelin, but it's $150 to start with. So there are options out there. They can go through and test your sweat to see how much sodium, how much potassium, how much all the minerals you lose. Because people are more salty sweaters. I mean, everybody's individual. But if you don't have the options to do in-depth testing, just knowing your sweat rates and coming up with kind of trends, how much you sweat versus hotter, colder, more humid. And if you do this over time, I've got athletes I've got 2-3 years worth of data on. So we could look at trends over time and over humidities and see what all the different little things of, okay, your race is this time of year in this kind of condition, so you need to plan on taking this much fluid in on the bike per hour. It's just, when you break it down, it's that simple. But when you look at it from the top down, 10,000 foot level, it's like, oh my God, how do I figure out how much I drink? And it's just like, well, I'm going to guess. No, don't guess. So the next point is find products that fit what you need. So Gatorade Endurance, that works for me, and that's usually on course in most Ironman events and most other events that I do. There's Hammer, there's Fluid, there's Infinite, there's Tailwind. There's so many different options out there. You can find something that works, use it in training. Like I said, if you're a saltier sweater, then you need to know products that kind of replace a little bit more sodium. Or you're going to do drinks, you're going to do like base salts. Or do you get your sodium through gels or nutrition on the bike or on the run? So you got to take this all into account. But whatever you're going to use, even if it's water, find the products that will fit what you need and use it in training. And the next point is check if on the course products will work. That's my first hit, because I don't like to carry a bunch of junk. At the time of this recording this video, we're in July of 2020, so coronavirus is kind of running rampant right now, and one of the ways they're going to try to deal with this during the race is as little contact with volunteers and athletes and everybody else. So you may have to be a little bit more self-supported, but they will have stuff on the course, so you need to check. That's my first stop. Like I said, check to see if it's going to be provided on the course, because if you drop something and you need some backup, then you can grab what's on course and you know it's going to be okay for you. Have the right run and bike gear to carry all your hydration. So if you do your testing and everything, you find out I need 48 fluid ounces per hour on the bike. Do you have enough places on your bike to put water bottles, hydration system? So you need to be doing all this stuff way in advance of your race. Because if you need to go buy a bike hydration system, you need to figure out what you want, how you want it. I've gone from bike mounted hydration systems, so now I'm just 4 cages for water bottles, and I figured out my system of swapping out water bottles at aid stations. Like I said, work on it now. Figure out what you want to do. Try it out in training, especially when you're starting into your longer runs, longer bike rides, and stuff like that. This is the time to be testing that stuff out. Don't go out for a 3-hour bike ride and just grab a couple water bottles and don't even think about it, because I'm guilty of doing that. But make sure that you're planning this out. You're going out, you're measuring yourself before, you're sticking to your hydration strategy, and you're measuring yourself afterwards. Are you really replenishing your fluids as you do these workouts and stuff? Because if you're not doing it in training, you're not going to do it on race day, I guarantee you. Because the overall goal for when you come off that bike is 2 to 3% dehydrated off the bike racing and training. So after you take into account your sweat loss, how much fluid you took in, how much fluid if you peed, how much food you ate, because a Cliff Bar 2.4 ounces or whatever, you can add that into the weight. So you don't want to underestimate or overestimate. You have a pretty good idea. So that's what you need to aim for. So if you come out, like I said, 40 fluid ounces an hour, you go out for a 3-hour bike ride in the middle of the summer in Kansas City, and it's 85, 90% humidity, but it's only 75 degrees. At the end of that ride, did you make only a 2 to 3% weight loss? So that's going to be a big indicator if you're on the right track or wrong track. And could you take all this in? Some people just cannot drink as much as this is going to show that they need. So this is a good educational tool to be doing all your training. Figure out what you need. Can you get it in? Can you feel comfortable? And I always like, if you do a 3-4 hour ride, go out for a 1 or 2 mile brick run. Is it so much fluid that you're sloshing around and feeling uncomfortable? It's kind of go back to the drawing board. You need to load up a little bit earlier in your bike ride and kind of tail off a little bit, so when you come off into T2 and go on your run, it's not a problem. Because this, if you don't nail the hydration on the bike, I guarantee you're going to crash and burn on the run. You may not end up DNFing the race. You may not need medical care, anything like that, but you may end up walking a lot just because you're lightheaded, you're dehydrated, your systems are shutting down, and you have to walk in order to take in fluids for your body to take it, because once you jack your heart rate up so high, you're out there in the course, and especially like Ironman Chattanooga, when it got the 95, 100 degree heat index, your body is not going to process anything. It's not going to do fluids. It's not going to do nutrition. It's not going to do anything. So make sure you're taking this stuff and working it out, figuring it out in training. Because you can't do it in training, you're not going to do it on race day. So the other point is, know you're going to take limits on the run. So you can actually probably reduce that by like 20%, 30%, something like that. So this goes back to knowing your sweat rates. You're keeping track for the run. So you're 2 to 3% dehydrated off the bike. There's going to be a point at which you get so dehydrated that your system's going to start shutting down. So can you make that window? Can you take what you actually take in training, reduce it by 30%, and have that be your plan, and can you get to the end of the run like that? So that's your long runs on Saturdays, Sundays, whenever you do your long runs, 2.5 hours. Can you get to the end of that run in a stable condition, feeling hydrated, and then measure yourself. Am I 5% dehydrated? Am I 10% dehydrated? If you do a 2-hour run and you've got a hydration strategy and you implement it, you're 10, 15% dehydrated, time out, man. It is time to go back to the drawing board, because that will not work. I guarantee you, for the majority of athletes, the run's going to take more than 2 hours, and a lot of these races are going to be warm on the run, and and that's just not going to work. Again, I want to hammer it home. Try it out in training first, and pay attention to stuff. Keep track. If you don't do a spreadsheet, do a notebook, something. Just write down notes. Took this much in, 20 fluid ounces over a 2-hour run, felt like crap afterwards. I'm going to try 30 next time. Try something, do anything. So knowing all this, then you have to also pre-plan for race location weather. So if you're doing a race, I'm in Florida in November, it's still kind of warm. But if you're in Kansas City, by November and September, October, it's kind of cool. So your hydration stuff, you're going to want to look at data that's kind of in, the June, July range, when it's kind of warm, but it's not killer warm. It's not 100-degree heat index, but it's going to be in the 80s possibly. I know one year was, it's like 50s. I think it was crazy. So just know your race and know the climate that typically is going to happen for the race. Like I said, I'm in Chattanooga, 100-degree heat index. That was 2019. 2014, it was, I think, a high of 75. It was perfect. That by far, that's still my personal best, just because the conditions were so perfect. Run, it didn't matter if you didn't have the best hydration strategy. It actually rained on the run for a little bit. It was awesome. Felt great. Felt great after the race. Felt great during the race. I don't remember walking except for cramps at mile 14. Had to walk those out for a little bit. But the rest of the running, it was great. It was fantastic. But know the race, know the venue, plan for the worst case scenario. Train for the weather at home. So that goes back to knowing the event. Train for the weather at home. So if you're doing Ironman Florida and you're in Kansas City and you're training in October and the high is only getting to 60 degrees, but in Florida it could possibly be 85 with 75 to 80% humidity, fake your atmosphere. So try to simulate the race conditions as much as possible at home. If you're doing indoor trainer work, like here in my little makeshift office, over there is my pain cave, turn on heaters. Add a humidifier, so you're actually adding humidity to the room. So just keep that sweat volume going. After a workout, go sit in the sauna if you got one possible. Go find someplace warm. Go sit in your car and turn the heater on or something like that, and just sweat and get used to staying warm and sweating and producing that blood volume that will keep you there on race day. So that's going to be another key, is making sure you're simulating the conditions. Like if you're doing Ironman Texas, or Ironman Tulsa, that's in the spring. If that's in April, Ironman Texas, like I said, I did Texas when I was in May, and it was a cool year, but it was 85 degrees, which was cool by their standards. It was wetsuit legal, but training in Kansas City in April and March and February, if you're able to make it outside when it's not snowing or raining or something, it was not warm. So I was just not acclimated whatsoever. Didn't even think about it. So make sure that you're acclimating as much as possible, especially if the conditions of race day are going to be different than the conditions you're going to be working out in leading up to race day. So those are my key points for having a good hydration plan and strategy. So it's measuring stuff. It's knowing the composition, knowing if you're a heavy, salty sweater or something like that, and just measuring to have data and information to actually make an educated decision by. Find some products. Try to match what's on the course. Figure out the bike and the run separately, because the bike you want to be 2 to 3% dehydrated, because you're not going to be 0, and you're not going to be positive. That is probably mathematically impossible, but aim for 2 to 3% worst case. And then know your intake limits on the run, what you can take in, because take what you're measuring in data and training and then take 70% of that, and that's probably what you can be able to take in on the run. But pre-plan for the location, weather, and for addressing the climate issues. If you have to, make up, turn your heaters on at home, or if it's going to be a cool race, go down to your basement and work out in air conditioning, so you're actually more acclimated to when you're actually doing the race and your body's used to those temperatures and conditions. But this is it. This is my big hit list of things to think about when you're developing your hydration plan, because if you're not thinking about this and you get the race day, it's too late. You're not going to know all this information. You're not going to know how your body responds. Maybe had a few bad training days where you're just over dehydrated and caused problems, but you really didn't understand why. If you had the data, you might be able to look back and say, well, yeah, I lost 5 pounds of fluids over an hour and a half run. So no kidding. So do it. Keep track now. Time of this recording, we're in July. You still got plenty of time for Chattanooga. For Ironman Texas, it's moved to November. Ironman Florida, other fall events, 70.3s. You got plenty of time to still track this information. We're in July. So you got July, you got August, you got September. There's still warm months to understand what's going on. Especially if you're up north and you're doing a race down south, or you're doing a race like in California or Florida, the coast, you can have this information and know how to better plan for race day. If you have any questions about hydration strategies, reply back to the emails, put comments on the videos, and I'll get back to you. Whatever you got. If you just questions, I've done tons of videos on hydration systems for bikes, things you can carry on the run. There's simple hydration. It's a bottle with 6 unit waistband. There's tons of different options out there. Water vests, whatever you got to do. If you are a heavy sweater, salty, there are ways that you can get through a race comfortably and do well. So, like I said, any questions, any concerns, send them my way, and I'll gladly answer them to the best of my ability. Happy training out there, and we'll see you on race day.